and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Louisa Britton. Your top stories on Tuesday, the 28th of November. Kent's bus stop, how dozens of services could be axed by cost-cutting measures.
We've got only one bus we can get in and out. When it doesn't come, we're stood in the cold an hour now. What will we do if it doesn't come?
Controversial weed killer approved, Kent farmers to carry on using alleged cancerous substance.
This is a very safe product and an extremely useful product for which there are no alternatives.
A Time Lord's dream. Who's going to be buying this? TARDIS goes on sale in Kent.
The real truth is, it just appeared one morning, along with a strange chap with a sink plunger who disappeared through the door going, exterminate, exterminate.
And in sport, hear from para-skier Millie Knight after she was nominated for the 2017 Young Sports Personality of the Year.
But first tonight, dozens of Kent's bus services could be cut. Kent County Council have made the proposals in the hope of saving £4 million. There'll be a consultation in the new year, but if plans go ahead, more than 70 services will go. Bobby Jeffrey has this report.
More than 70 bus services could be axed in the county. That's according to a report by Kent County Council, which shows the authority is proposing the move in an attempt to save £4 million over the next 2 years. But many of these services provide a means of transport for the elderly, vulnerable people, school children and those in villages without access to any other form of transport. One of those which might be affected is the number 5 bus behind me, which they're looking at cutting in the evenings. Now, I spoke to people across Maidstone to find out whether it will affect them and what they thought about it.
I can remember not long ago people saying we should use the buses. Now, evidently, they're going to cut them again. I think we're just going from bad to worse.
We've got only one bus we can get in and out. When it doesn't come, we're stood in the cold an hour now. What will we do if it doesn't come? No, it's horrendous. It's just not on.
The buses are not that reliable anyway, so it's quite hard to get places now.
Overall, more than 1.5 million journeys were made on the services which are subsidised by the council, a figure which represents 3% of all bus journeys across Kent. Young people are amongst the biggest users of bus services, whilst 40% of people over 60 use the bus at least once a week. Maidstone could be one of the worst affected areas, with plans to cut almost 10 bus services to and from the town, including service number 59, 266, 88 and 12. Campaign groups say the services are a lifeline for many.
I think most of those services will affect the people most in need quite acutely. What concerns me most is that several of them are school services, so will that be affecting school children? And if that happens, it may well be that the County Council will have to pick up the cost elsewhere through taxes or other services, so it doesn't achieve much.
We approached Kent County Council and bus operators for comment, but no one was available. A decision on which services are proposed to end will be made in December, with consultation beginning in January. Final decision will be made in May. This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV in Maidstone.
Now, Thanet's the worst area in Kent when it comes to children's prospects of getting a good education and a job. That's according to a new State of the Nation report from the Social Mobility Commission. It found Thanet to be the area in Kent which most puts children at a disadvantage. Well, where did you grow up and was it a good area? We asked shoppers in Chatham.
I grew up in Raynham, which was part of the borough of Gillingham at the time, and I quite enjoyed it. It was a good place to grow up.
In my childhood, because I remember it around the 80s, Chatham has changed a lot to what it is now. There was a lot more things going on in the Pentagon, had a lot more shops.
I grew up in Southern Ireland in a little village, in a town called Kilmallock, which is in County Limerick, and a community place. So yes, I thought it was a very good place to grow up.
I grew up in Chatham mostly. I know I have a strong accent, but I've got my family all around me and that. But Chatham is a very bad end. You know, I've been mugged 2 or 3 times in the last year. Chatham's a very angry town.
Wickmore area, and it was very countrified. We had a big place when I was a child, and it was a beautiful place to grow up.
I actually grew up in Hempstead. Went to the Tap and Tin pub A lot of my friends was DJing down there, so that's where we spent a number of our years.
Yeah, I grew up in Chatham. I'm 72 now. I think Chatham's quite good for shopping and entertainment and safety reasons.
Shoppers in Chatham there. But what do you think? Was your area a good one to grow up in? Let us know by using the hashtag #KentSays on social media. Now, farmers in Kent will be able to continue using a weed killer despite fears it causes cancer. Glyphosate is used on most crops in the county and a ban could have put farmers out of work. The campaigners say it's dangerous to use. Harry Pete has this report.
The word glyphosate may not mean much to you on the surface, but this week the EU held a vote that could have had a huge impact on our dinner plates and our health. Glyphosate is a weed killer that's used on most farms in the county to protect our food. But when research by one company suggested that it could cause cancer, a vote was held to ban it for good.
What's been shown in some studies in cultured cells or again in animal models is the potential for glyphosate to cause oxidative stress, which we know is a way in which damage can occur to molecules in the cells, such as DNA. So there is, if you like, a possible mechanism by which it might cause cancer.
Just a few weeks ago, it looked like glyphosate would be banned, but the vote this week allowed the product to be used for another 5 years. And while there's no exact evidence to suggest glyphosate does cause cancer, Dr. Fenton explains why some small-scale tests have worried environmentalists.
There is some evidence from laboratory animal studies, but it's important to remember that the doses, the mode of exposure, so whether something's coming in through your skin, for example, or inhaled or ingested in food, could be very different. So one mode of ingestion may have a cancer-causing role. In others, there wouldn't be.
But farmers in Kent say the substance is safe, and they say that without it, they wouldn't be able to meet the growing demand for food in the UK.
Every committee has deemed it to be a safe product. There's one committee that decided it should be on a list alongside sugar. So let's put that into perspective, that we're not dealing with a dreadful something that we're doing out in the orchards. This is a very safe product and an extremely useful product for which there are no alternatives.
Kent farmers have warned that if the weed killer was banned, production costs would increase and farms could go out of business.
Without glyphosate, what we would end up with is a covering of weeds that would actually be taking that nutrition and water away from the crop. So we need to be able to knock out some of these perennial weeds, which we can't do currently any other way in a reliable and consistent, cost-effective manner.
Greenpeace say that they feel betrayed by the vote after 1.3 million EU citizens signed a petition last week asking for a ban. But with no concrete evidence to suggest it's cancerous, farmers in Kent are free to use weed killer for at least 5 more years. Harry Pete for KMTV.
Next tonight, a former Gurkha who now lives in Maidstone climbed to Mount Everest's base camp. Anil Gurung lost his leg after stepping on a bomb while on tour of Afghanistan, but successfully trekked to base camp this month for charity. So far, he's raised more than £10,000 for the Royal British Legion's Industries based in Aylesford. He's now returned to the UK, and I'm happy to say Anil joins me now. So, what made you want to climb to base camp?
I want to challenge, and I want to give something back to RBLI where I work. So that was the main reason, yeah.
And how much of a challenge was it?
I think it was quite a massive challenge for me. With only one leg and the other legs with prosthetic legs, yeah.
And you've also done other challenges as well, haven't you? This isn't the first time you've done something for raising money for this charity.
Yeah, this is the first time I raised the money for RBLI. The challenge I've done before was doing the Invictus game twice. That was in 2014 and 2016.
Great. And in terms of what was it like taking a trek all the way up to base camp? Base camp itself is really high up, isn't it?
It is really high up, and I've never been to the altitude the base camp was set up for. So it was a massive challenge for me, and whoever was taking part, and I think the altitude itself was the massive challenge.
So was it tricky to breathe at some points?
When you go up to some certain heights, you feel dizziness, and you don't feel like eating all your dinners. Yeah.
And in terms of what the RBLI does, you work there now. You've just recently come back. What sort of work do you do there?
I work at the BBMC, Britain's bravest manufacturing company, as a social enterprise. I make signs there. Work.
And in terms of what you do there, what sort of work are you involved in?
I make the road signs, railway signs, any sort of signs, any particular signs that comes in, we do.
Great. And have you got any future projects coming up at all to raise more money?
Not at the moment I have, but I might be.
Fab. And you've raised £10,000. That's already quite a huge amount. You've got to raise another 5,000. Are you doing anything for that?
Yeah, I'm trying to push out a little bit, but after I've done this trek, so hopefully I'll manage to get my target.
Fantastic. Thanks ever so much for coming in. Thank you very much for that. And when we come back, the people of Tonbridge remember a Belgian soldier who died in the town. Don't go away.
If we could find the family of Louis Marx during the centenary of this World War I, it would be epic. We would invite them over to Tonbridge, we could visit the grave, they could see where their ancestor is buried, they could even come here and see where he received his first care.
Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. Your top story this evening. More than 70 bus services could be axed in Kent after the council announced cost-cutting measures to save £4 million. But critics say the services provide a lifeline for elderly people and school children. Poppy Jeffrey has more.
More than 70 bus services could be axed in the county. That's according to a report by Kent County Council, which shows the authority is proposing the move in an attempt to save £4 million over the next 2 years. Campaign groups say the services are a lifeline for many.
I think most of those services will affect the people most in need quite acutely.
We approached Kent County Council and bus operators for comment, but no one was available. A decision on which services are proposed to end will be made in December, with consultation beginning in January. Final decision will be made in May.
With news of a Kent Paralympian nominated for Young Sports Personality of the Year, here's Keelan with the sport.
First in sport this evening, Canterbury paraskier Millie Knight is one of 10 outstanding teen athletes to make the 2017 shortlist for Young Sports Personality of the Year. The 18-year-old visually impaired world champion has had a superb season, scooping up 15 major medals on the international circuit. The top 3 contenders will be announced on the 7th of December, with the overall winner being crowned during the Sports Personality Show on the 17th. Earlier today, I caught up with Millie at a training camp in Austria. I began by asking her how she felt about her nomination.
To be nominated is amazing, and there are such amazing people on that list, and to be up there with them is incredible, and it's such a wonderful honour.
I was going to say about some of the people that are on there. You've got people from football and athletes. Do you think your nomination could help to enhance the sports profile?
Oh, for sure. Skiing is quite a minority sport, and to get this type of recognition is amazing, and I really hope that it does raise the profile, especially now that we're 100 days away from the games. It's good to boost that.
And this season's gone pretty well for you. What have been some of your highlights so far?
Well, this season is getting back onto snow, getting back onto speed skis. So I crashed last season because I didn't stop in the finish line. So so for me, it's been very much learning how to stop again. But last season, definitely my highlight was winning gold at the World Championships.
So what are you expecting from the games this winter? What are your aims there?
Well, at the moment, based on last season's results, we're on track to do quite well. But to be honest, for me, it's important that I don't set myself sort of actual medal targets, because I think that puts undue pressure on me. So for me, my goal is to stand in the start gate knowing that I've done everything I possibly can do and I'll have no regrets. and then crossing the finish line just with a smile on my face.
Well, Millie, thank you very much for speaking to us today, and best of luck at the Games this winter.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Paraskier Millie Knight there chatting to me earlier today. Hockey now, and in the men's and women's Premier Divisions, we've reached the halfway mark in the season. Kent sides will now take a break until February when the second half of the campaign starts. The last round of games took place at the weekend. Here's Harry Pete to bring you up to speed on the results.
In the Women's Hockey League, goals from Philippa Lewis, Emma Trunks and Durkee Chamberlain helped Holcombe beat Clifton Robinsons 3-0. The Hawks are now third, 3 points behind leaders Surbiton. Sarah Curley's second half goal grabbed a point for Canterbury, who despite being bottom of the league are now 4 games unbeaten. In the men's Premier Division, despite going ahead inside the first minute through Robert Field and Nick Bandurak scoring his 12th goal of the season, Holcombe fell to Reading 4-3 at home, while Sevenoaks and Canterbury played out a 6-goal thriller in a Kent derby at Hollybush Lane. But a draw proved to be less than ideal for both teams, with both on 4 points and 6 points behind 8th place Brooklands.
If you head over to kmtv.co.uk, you can watch yesterday's edition of Team Talk, where I was joined by Sevenoaks assistant coach Stephen Mina and Holcombe first team players Mohammed Mir and Glenn Ayers to look back on those results and the season so far. I'll be back with more sport for you later on in the programme. See you then.
Almost 100 years ago to the day, the people of Tonbridge came out in force for the military funeral of a Belgian soldier who died in the town. But conflicting documents mean little is known about the heritage of Louis Marx. One local historian's on a mission to find relatives of the brave Belgian, and Cameron Tucker's been finding out more.
250,000 Belgian refugees fled to the UK as the First World War ravaged their homeland, one of the largest mass exoduses in history. Throughout Kent, the displaced Belgians were largely welcomed with open arms. Homes and schools took them in, and here in Tunbridge Wells, Belgian nationals were given free tickets to events at the Opera House, now a Wetherspoons.
Everybody wanted to have their Belgian refugee, and there are reports in the Times, for example, of women turning up at the major railway stations demanding to be given a refugee to take home.
Belgian soldiers injured fighting were shipped to England for treatment. 47 were treated in Tunbridge, many of them at the Tunbridge School Sanatorium, now a residential complex. One of those soldiers was 24-year-old Louis Marx, who succumbed to gunshot wounds. For his bravery in battle, Marx was given a full military funeral before being laid to rest at the local cemetery. After the reading of the last rites, 3 military gun salutes were fired over the grave and the last post delivered by the Officer Training Corps of the Tunbridge School. Of the floral tributes, one bore the inscription, "To a brave soldier, with our deepest sympathy, an English girl."
His fellow soldiers kind of cared for him as well. The nurses cared for him, and he was well liked. And when he died on the 20th of November 1914, Tunbridge really came together. It was a real spectacle. It was the first military funeral we saw in World War I here in Tunbridge, so it was a spectacle.
Pam's been on a mission to find Marx's ancestors, but her research has hit a brick wall.
Unfortunately, at the time, it was reported in Tunbridge Free Press that he was married and he had a child. My research has now shown this isn't to be true. He was actually born in Brussels, and it was his father who had remarried, and he'd had the child. So there's a bit of a mix-up with communication.
And so the search continues.
If we could find the family of Louis Marx during the centenary of this World War I, it would be epic. We would invite them over to Tunbridge, we could visit the grave, they could see where their ancestor is buried, they could even come here and see where he received his first care, and just see the community in which, he was very much loved.
An exhibition celebrating successful alumni has opened at the University of Greenwich in Medway. It comes after a recent report showed the 3 universities based at the Medway campus contribute millions of pounds to the local economy. The University of Greenwich have opened an exhibition showcasing their high-flying alumni in the historic setting of the Pembroke building. The former students mostly studied at the Faculty of Engineering and Science based at Medway.
It's been a fantastic experience. The University of Greenwich is a particularly international campus. We have lots of students from all around the world, and being exposed to all those different cultures is fantastic, and learning about other people as much about the subjects that you're studying is fantastic.
They all had their portraits taken by award-winning photographer Diane Patrice, and the exhibition, with its 18 portraits, is keen to highlight the diversity of the students who passed through the university.
I think it's really interesting because it's such a diverse group of people, all doing really different things at different career stages, working in different parts of the world, and I think that's really inspiring to a lot of people.
This new exhibition, which opens here at Greenwich University and in the building you see behind me, also comes just after a report was published earlier this month, which shows that the 3 universities based on the Medway campus, including Canterbury Christ Church and the University of Kent, alongside the University of Greenwich, contributes more than £140 million to the local economy. According to the figures released for 2015-2016, the universities, which share a campus at Chatham Maritime, are also responsible for an economic impact worth a further £234 million across the South East.
I think the university plays not just the University of Greenwich, but the 3 universities here at Medway play an enormously important role locally, both in terms of not just providing education, but providing employment and employment opportunities. And a recent report that we've had commissioned that demonstrate that the 3 universities between us contribute over £300 million a year to the local economy. So we do make a significant difference and a significant impact on the region.
More than 10,000 higher education students are currently based at Chatham Maritime, as well as several hundred members of staff, something the universities say makes the campus a thriving place to work. This is Louisa Britton for KMTV in Medway. A reminder, you can stay up to date with all the news, sports and weather from right across Kent, whenever and wherever you are, by clicking on kmtv.co.uk. You'll find breaking news, local features, repeats of our special programmes, plus the latest travel news. It's going to be chilly this evening, with temperatures dropping as low as 3 degrees near Tunbridge Wells. It will stay cold into the morning but stay cloudy across the county. Moving into the afternoon, there could be some outbreaks of sun in the east of the county, with highs of 6 degrees in Canterbury. Looking ahead to the next few days, it will stay cold until Saturday at least, with some sun most likely on Friday. And coming up after the break, we take a look at a piece of Doctor Who memorabilia going up for auction tomorrow in Canterbury in aid of charity. Don't go away.
It's signed by many members of the cast and 3 former Doctors. I'm sure the names will mean a lot more to people that are real fans of the series, but it's a unique opportunity.
And welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Louisa Britton. Your top stories on Tuesday, the 28th of November. Kent's bus stop, how dozens of services could be axed by cost-cutting measures.
We've got only one bus we can get in and out. When it doesn't come, we're stood in the cold an hour now. What will we do if it doesn't come?
Controversial weed killer approved. Kent farmers to carry on using alleged cancerous substance.
This is a very safe product and an extremely useful product for which there are no alternatives.
A Time Lord's dream. Who's going to be buying this? TARDIS goes on sale in Kent.
The real truth is, it just appeared one morning, along with a strange chap with a sink plunger who disappeared through the door going, exterminate, exterminate.
And in sport, hear about one of Maidstone's strikers swapping one black and amber side for another.
Dozens of bus services could be axed by Kent County Council's cost-cutting measures, but critics say the services provide a lifeline for the elderly, school children and people in villages without access to other forms of transport. Poppy Jeffrey has more.
More than 70 bus services could be axed in the county. That's according to a report by Kent County Council, which shows the authority is proposing the move in an attempt to save £4 million over the next 2 years. One of those which might be affected is the number 5 bus behind me, which they're looking at cutting in the evenings. Now, I spoke to people across Maidstone to find out whether it will affect them and what they thought about it.
I can remember not long ago people saying we should use the buses. Now, evidently, they're going to cut them again. I think we're just going from bad to worse.
We've got only one bus we can get in and out. When it doesn't come, we're stood in the cold an hour now. What will we do if it doesn't come? No, it's horrendous. It's just not on.
Overall, more than 1.5 million journeys were made on the services which are subsidised by the council, a figure which represents 3% of all bus journeys across Kent. Young people are amongst the biggest users of bus services, whilst 40% of people over 60 use the bus at least once a week. Maidstone could be one of the worst affected areas, with plans to cut almost 10 bus services to and from the town, including service number 59, 266, 88 and 12. Campaign groups say the services are a lifeline for many.
What concerns me most is that several of them are school services, so will that be affecting school children? And if that happens, it may well be that the county council will have to pick up the cost elsewhere through taxes or other services, so it doesn't achieve much.
We approached Kent County Council and bus operators for comment, but no one was available. A decision on which services are proposed to end will be made in December, with consultation beginning in January. Final decision will be made in May. This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV in Maidstone.
Well, since we've come on air, we've had a response from the council, and Andy's here to tell us what they said. So what have they told us?
Well, it's not too much more than what we already know, that it will be discussed this week. But they say we recognise the significant importance of these bus contracts affected by the proposals, which account for 1.6 million journeys. The proposals has identified bus contracts supported by KCC, which, subject to consultation, could be withdrawn. It does not necessarily mean the whole service will go. So what people really at home will be thinking, well, am I going to lose my service? Am I going to lose my number? And what the council have said, and they've been categoric about, is that you have to take part in the consultation if you want to keep your service, and you can do by contacting the council directly.
Great, thanks for that, Andy. Thanks a lot. Now, a report from the Social Mobility Commission suggests that Thanet's the area which most puts children at a disadvantage in Kent. The State of the Nations ranks all 324 local authorities in England in terms of the life chances of someone born into a disadvantaged background. But what about you? Do you think your area gave you the same opportunities that it gives people now? We are shoppers in Chatham.
The opportunities, I think there's more opportunities now, but after but I think it would be more difficult to find a job now than in the late 50s and 60s.
People around here have really looked after me and that, and yes, I have, where I come from. So yes, I've had loads of opportunities and people have been very helpful.
Yeah, I think Chatham offers a great sort of opportunity, sort of for schools and nurseries, and we've got the universities now, haven't we, down near Dockside?
Brought my daughters up in London. I mean, they're grown up now, obviously, and they did have some freedom because it was in the 70s when my daughters were babies, but I've got grandchildren now, and I think somehow they seem to be a little bit more, well, they don't have that freedom, I think.
People look down on us in Chatham. You know, they like to see us as scum of the earth and stuff, but, you know, one day I'd like to move to Maidstone. One day, hopefully, you know, because there is a lot of opportunity.
When I was little, I went to several different schools, so I think that might have held me back a little bit, but I did end up becoming a staff nurse and doing what I wanted to do with my life, which was great.
Shoppers in Chatham there. But what about you? Does your area give you the same opportunities as people when you grew up? Let us know by using the hashtag KentSays on social media. Now, don't forget that you can keep up to date on all things going on in Kent by visiting our website, kmtv.co.uk. You can check out some of our latest stories from across the county, like this video from last week about hospitals in East Kent being ranked the worst in the country for waiting times.
The East Kent hospitals hit headlines in the summer when more than 700 patients a month were turned away from Canterbury to Ashford and Margate. It was ranked the worst in the country for waiting times, and again, 3 months later, the Trust has been given that unwanted title again.
Well, the issue at the moment, of course, is because I think the added pressures on William Harvey and QEQM because of the services they moved away from the Kent to Canterbury in June, and I think that's put a big pressure on the other two hospitals. We realised a long time ago that Kent is growing, and of course, way back as 2002, there was a need for a new hospital here, which was bigger. And what they are trying to do is we're removing beds. Well, I don't think that's quite going to work. I don't think they understand that the population is growing.
The national average for patients being seen within 4 hours is around 85%, but for East Kent hospitals, the figure is around 63%.
I do think that it is becoming the story and the norm. I hope it's going to improve in the next few weeks because I think there is actually things being done to help it, but that doesn't help the people waiting on the trolleys in the wards outside.
The Trust weren't available for interview on camera, but did say that Kent's NHS staff are working really hard, saying in a statement that every action for patients makes a difference, and we have seen a really encouraging improvement in our performance in the last 2 weeks of October, with a continued positive trend of improvement into November. And with waiting times again way below that of the national average, Ken and the rest of the CHEC members will be going to London tomorrow to meet with the government to tell them exactly how this issue should be sorted out.
We've got a meeting with Jeremy Hunt tomorrow, which Helen Waitley has managed to get, although we did write to Jeremy Hunt early in the year after I'd written to the Queen, so we have written to everybody. We put a pack together which shows them the situation as it was in 2002, what the historical movements have been since then, what the services are like now, what's been moved out, and of course our vision and a cure. We have a solution, and the solution is for a new hospital to be built here in the Kent to Canterbury.
And while attempts have been made to help ease the pressure on hospitals in the short term, CHEC will be hoping that tomorrow's letter to Jeremy Hunt may provide a more urgent long-term solution. Harry Peat for KMTV in Canterbury.
It's big, it's blue and it's up for sale. A replica TARDIS created in Herne Bay goes under the hammer tomorrow in Canterbury, and all of the proceeds are going to children in need. Our reporter and resident Doctor Who fan, Poppy Jeffrey, went to find out more.
This iconic blue box is instantly recognisable by people across the world as a TARDIS.
It's all in aid of children in need, but this magnificent TARDIS is going up for sale on Wednesday. It's expected to reach around £5,000 and raise a lot of money for children in need.
It's 9 foot tall and signed by numerous doctors, Daleks, cast and crew from across the years, and has made thousands of fans happy at conventions across the southeast. It was created in 2012 by lifelong fan and Whitstable resident Jason Onion, who used to work for the BBC.
I tried to get it as close as possible to the prop as it originally looked, because the first prop that they used on the show went from 63 to 1976, and I tried to get it so it looked like when it was at Lime Grove, painted gloss blue, and you know, like the original one with the handles and everything else. I mean, you know, purists will go, you know, that's not quite right and things like that, but you know, it's a police box, it's a bit of fun.
It goes up for sale at the Canterbury Auction Galleries on Wednesday with a guide price of £3,000 to £5,000, but is expected to go for a lot more, and it's all in aid of charity. It stands pride of place in a room downstairs, and by pure chance, it's landed itself a rather fitting lot number 2.
I'd love to say that we took it apart and brought it in here on the back of a lorry, but the real truth is it just appeared one morning, along with a strange chap with a sink plunger who disappeared through the door going, exterminate, exterminate. Lot number is 999, which was very spooky. The numbers are computer generated, we have no control over them, and the first printout outcome, the TARDIS, lot 999. Incredible. It's signed by many members of the cast and 3 former doctors. I'm sure the names will mean a lot more to people that are real fans of the series, but it's a unique opportunity. We've got an estimate on it of £5,000, which we'd like to achieve, purely for the fact that we'd like to raise that money for children in need, which is where every penny is going to go. There'll be no commission charged by us. It's simply all for charity.
This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV in Canterbury.
Coming up after the break, we'll be meeting Kent's Young Chefs of the Year and tasting some of their award-winning dishes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV on Tuesday the 28th of November. In case you missed it, out of service, how dozens of bus routes could be axed in council cuts.
I think most of those services will affect the people most in need quite acutely.
Weedkiller approved, Kent farmers to carry on using alleged cancerous substance.
The potential for glyphosate to cause oxidative stress, which we know is a way in which damage can occur to molecules in the cells, such as DNA.
Calling all Time Lords, this could be yours. TARDIS goes on sale in Kent.
I mean, you know, purists will go, you know, that's not quite right and things like that, but, you know, it's a police box, it's a bit of fun.
And in sport, it's all to play for as we reach the halfway mark of the hockey season.
With news of a change at the top for Kent's cricketers, here's Keelan with the sport. But first, Kean, one of Maidstone United's strikers have gone out on loan.
That's right, Johan Horst, who they brought in during the summer. He's gone back to Folkestone, where he was initially there a few years ago before he moved on to Hull City. And he's just found it a little bit difficult to break through into that Maidstone United first team. He's only scored one goal so far this season, which was this strike we can see here against Hartlepool right at the beginning of September when Maidstone lost by 3-1. He was given a start a couple of weeks ago when they played Solihull Moors at home when they faced the bottom of the table side in a frustrating 1-1 draw. And in fact, he had this great chance to score his second of the season, but as he ran the goalkeeper, hit the crossbar. But so he's gone back to Folkestone, and they're having a really good time of it in the Bostik Premier Division this campaign. So a few more goals there, a little bit like Gillingham have done with Liam Nash, putting him into Leatherhead to try and get a bit of experience and a few more goals under his belt. So for Jay Saunders and for Maidstone, they'll be hoping that Johan Horst can grab a couple of goals and then maybe come back to Maidstone and push the likes of Zavon Hines, Jamar Loza and Delano Sam York for a starting spot. So we'll see how he gets on. In cricket, Chief Executive Jamie Clifford is set to leave Kent after 15 years with the club. Clifford became permanent CEO in 2010 and has now moved on to take up a senior role as Assistant Secretary at Marylebone Cricket Club. During his spell with Kent, the Chief Executive oversaw the £10 million redevelopment of the Spitfire ground, as well as opening a 2,000-seater stand at the club's county ground in Beckenham. Operations Director Ben Green will assume the Chief Executive's duties in February 2018. You're up to date on sport for today. I'll have more for you at the same time tomorrow.
Time now for your pick of the papers with a look at what's making the news in print, online and radio across Kent. Earlier on today, I caught up with KMFM's Molly Milam-Chappell, who started off by telling me about Kent's record for arrests made in connection with controlling relationships.
So the first story is all about coercive control. So more people have been arrested for coercive control in Kent than anywhere else in England in the last 18 months since it became an offence.
And the offence, what is coercive control?
Well, it looks at anything that might kind of be involved in a relationship, really. So things like restricting money access, who the people can be friends with, whether they can actually leave the house, anything that kind of looks at intimidating behaviour or anything that's controlling towards that other person that you're in a relationship with.
So it can be quite a serious crime then.
Yes.
And what are the figures looking like in the county?
So more than 500 people have been detained since last year in the county, but around only 1 in 6 have been charged actually for this offence. But Kent Police say that the force has one of the highest conviction rates in the county, so that's quite a positive thing really going forward.
Mm-hmm. And the second story, moving on, is about extra pressure on schools in the county.
Yes, so there's quite a large influx of people coming in from London, and there's rumours that apparently the councillors are saying authorities in the capital are looking to buy up former MOD land to rehouse families from the capital in cheaper accommodation. But last week it was revealed that before even this influx were to happen, that Kent would need an equivalent of an extra 12 secondary schools to meet demand over the next few years. So that's obviously going to put even more strain on the area.
Yeah, exactly, because last week we were already hearing about £150 million needed to be put into schools in the county, so it seems like this might potentially put even more pressure on
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
And the last story is quite a fun one. It's about a character called Flat Stanley, kind of making it around lots of places.
Yeah, so we probably all remember Flat Stanley from our school days, really. I know I certainly do. And obviously he's a fictitious character, but it was this school in Kent, so Year 2 children sent a copy of the children's book character to Prince Harry at Kensington Palace, the man of the moment currently, and he's actually been sending this character off around the grounds with his brother Prince William and obviously his children, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, and apparently Flat Stanley's also been playing with Lupo, their dog, as well, which is quite fun. But he's also been with another number of celebrities as well, which is quite funny, really.
And if there are lots of different other people who seems to be making it to France and other countries as well. He sounds a really fun thing to do for children.
Yeah, it is, and it was part of a big project to kind of see how far the character could actually go and his adventures around the world, which is great, really. So he's met celebrities like Darcy Bustle from Strictly Come Dancing and Michael Gambon, who we all know from the Harry Potter films as well. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes next, really.
Great, thanks ever so much for that, Molly. A reminder, you can stay up to date with all the news, sports and weather from right across Kent whenever and wherever you are by clicking on kmtv.co.uk. You'll find breaking news, local features, repeats of our special programmes, plus the latest travel news. It's going to be chilly this evening with temperatures dropping as low as 3 degrees near Tunbridge Wells. It will stay cold into the morning but stay cloudy across the county. Moving into the afternoon, there could be some outbreaks of sun in the east of the county with highs of 6 degrees in Canterbury. Looking ahead to the next few days, it will stay cold until Saturday at least, with some sun most likely on Friday. Well, now for something a bit different with a new section we're calling Made in Kent. Maidstone's Leah Matthews and Olivia Lowe triumphed over tough competition recently to be crowned the Kent Young Chefs of 2017. The contest is run annually by local food and drink organisation Produced in Kent. During the live final, the teen chefs were marked on flavour, presentation and even good working practice, among other criteria. Well, I'm delighted to say that Leah and Olivia join us now alongside Keelan, who's here to taste some of the lovely dishes that they've prepared for us. So tell us a little bit about the puddings you brought in for us today. Leah, you go first.
My dessert's called Caught Up in the Brambles. It's a caramelised baked Cox apple slice with elderflower cream and poached blackberries.
Fantastic. And Olivia?
Mine's called Forager's Tart, and it's my grandma's apples and crab apples and cranberries.
Fantastic. And I might have a taste of this one first of all. How did you get into cooking first of all?
I started at home when I was younger with my mum and dad. I do bits in the kitchen when they're cooking, like dinner and things like that. But I got into the competition because my catering teacher, Mrs. Thomas, saw potential in me and wanted me to.
And was it really tense during the competition? I'm just trying. Sorry, it's a bit tricky.
I was nervous, so it didn't really help. But
I was going to say, what's been your biggest inspiration to get into cooking?
Well, mine's my mum, so she's been encouraging me to cook since I was younger, and I've always wanted to help out in the kitchen.
And what inspired you to the dish that Louisa's trying at the moment?
Actually, that's Leah's, I think. It's really good. Really good. Is it sort of inspired by autumn, I suppose? It tastes really nice and autumnal.
Yeah.
Fab. And why don't you
I'm going to give this one a bit of a go, actually, whilst we have a chat about this. Tell us a little bit more about this one. What was the inspiration behind this?
So my grandma has an apple tree in her garden, so I thought I would incorporate them into it. So that's the main filling.
Fantastic.
And then it's called Forager's Tartlet because I picked the crab apples on the top from the hedgerows through Kent.
Lovely.
So it's inspired by seasonal food.
Does it taste good?
It's a lovely, rich flavour. It really is very nice. Very great flavours in there, and you can really taste the, as I say, the flavours really come out
really
nice.
good. Yeah, really lovely. And do you both want to go into cooking as a career at all? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I'm really interested in a chefing career.
And yourself?
I've thought about it, but I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to go into yet.
And do you want to do other competitions as well? Obviously, the Bake Off's the massive one, MasterChef, that sort of thing.
Yeah. When I get older, I'll think about it, and I really want to have a go at them.
Do you watch MasterChef and Bake Off and get inspiration from there?
Yeah. I find them really interesting. We watch them as a family.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you see that, I suppose it really helps youngsters then sort of get into the kitchen and make fantastic dishes like these.
Yeah, what's really nice about these is obviously inspired by your family, and I must encourage you quite a lot then?
Yeah, they're really encourageable. Yeah.
And in terms of sort of the other people who were part of the competition, what was that like? Obviously you were pitted against each other. What was it like going into the kitchens?
I think we were all under like pressure, and it was just nerves really. So.
Was there any time constraints like you see sometimes on these shows where you've only got an hour to make it or something like that?
We had 2 hours for both dishes.
Oh right, okay. So how difficult is that to make something like this in that sort of time?
It's difficult because you have to serve it hot, so it's good for the judges, but it was better because you had warming plates, so you could make it better.
And is there any sort of tense period where the judges have gone away and tasted it, like you see sometimes on these shows, then they come back and they're like, oh, this was a bit dodgy, or that was nice.
Yeah.
And in terms, obviously you cooked a main as well as a pudding. What were your mains?
My main was called Lewes Duck Race, and where my school is, which is in Lewes, there's a charity event, and it's to do with like yellow ducks racing. So that was what my main was called, but it was a lavender and honey glazed duck breast on a bed of pickled spinach and mushrooms with potato, bacon and cheese roses.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for, but best of luck in the future as well. You've been watching Kent Tonight live on KMTV, but there's more news later on in the evening. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.